He offered her food. She ate slowly, unsure of the taste but starving. Wine followed, one sip, and her lips curled. "It burns," she whispered. "You'll get used to it," he replied. She set the glass down, fingers trembling slightly. Damon didn't miss it. "You're nervous," he said. She nodded, eyes falling to her lap. "You're a virgin," he added, tone flat, like it wasn't even a question. Her head snapped up. Her face burned. Yes, she admitted. He stood, walked, to her, stopped close enough to touch her breath. "I won't hurt you, not unless you want me to." Her lips parted, confused, scared, but also curious. "Why me?" she whispered. "Because you didn't look at me like everyone else does. You didn't want anything from me." "But I do," she said, voice barely a breath. "I want everything." He didn't smile, just leaned forward and kissed her. Gently, slowly, his lips were warm, soft, but there was strength underneath. A warning of what was coming. When he touched her waist, she flinched, but didn't pull away. "Do you want this?" he asked, lips. At her ear, she nodded. "Just go slow, that thing—" She looked down. "And it's too big, I might end up in a hospital." He chuckled darkly, a sound that made her stomach flip. "Don't worry, I've got you. There won't be pain, just heaven." He lifted her like she weighed nothing and laid her on his bed. The silk sheets were cold, but his skin was fire. He kissed her again, deeper this time, more demanding. His hands explored her with the patience of a man who wanted to memorize everything. When he entered her, she cried out, loud and shocked, a mix of pain and strange burning pleasure. Her fingers gripped his back. Her body arched against his. Tears blurred her vision, but her lips never stopped searching for his. He moved inside her slowly, then faster, pushing her to the edge of something she didn't even have a name for. Her legs trembled, her mind spiraled, and when she broke apart beneath him, it wasn't just pleasure, it was rebirth. They lay in silence afterward, their breathing tangled in the night air. Damon stared at the ceiling, while Liana clutched, the sheet to her chest, her body aching and raw. "I'm not going back," she whispered. He turned to her. "No, you're not. Why?" "Because I'm going to make a woman out of you, the kind no one dares to look down on." That night, something inside Liana cracked open, not just her innocence, but her hunger. For more. For him. For power. For respect. She didn't want to be the barefoot girl on the street anymore. She wanted to be something else, something untouchable, something his. The days that followed moved like a dream. Liana wasn't sure she deserved. Damon kept his word. He didn't send her back. He didn't treat her like a one-night mistake. Instead, he gave her space in his home and in his world. A new wardrobe arrived the next morning. Dresses that clung to her like second skin, heels that made her legs look endless, perfumes that smelled like power. She hesitated when she saw the price tags. Things worth more than she'd earned in a year, but he only said one thing when he caught her staring. "You're mine now, and mine doesn't wear rags." It wasn't just the clothes. A tutor arrived that same week. A tall woman named Miss Claire who taught her how to speak with confidence, how to pronounce words like she belonged in a boardroom instead of a back alley. She taught her how to sit, how to eat, how to walk into a room and silence it with her presence. At first, Liana hated it, but Damon would come home at night and listen to her try new words. He'd correct her softly, his fingers playing with her hair while she sat curled on his massive bed. "You're learning fast," he told her one evening as he loosened his tie and slid beside her. "Smarter than half the women I've met," she smiled. "You say that like you've met thousands," he smirked. "I have." That answer should have stung. Instead, it made her heart race. She was becoming someone different, someone bold, and every night he took her again, his hands on her skin, his breath hot against her throat, claiming her like she was his prize for surviving hell. But it wasn't just lust. There was something in the way he touched her that didn't feel like ownership. It felt like obsession. That night, something shifted. She had just finished taking a shower, wrapped in a towel, her hair damp and clinging to her neck. She was humming to herself, brushing her hair in front of the mirror, when she noticed him standing in the doorway. Damon's eyes darkened the moment he saw her. No words, no hello, just that silent tension that always meant trouble, or something better. "What?" she asked softly, her fingers tightening around the brush. "You keep walking around like that," he said, voice low, "and I'll forget how hard I've tried to be patient." "Patient?" she teased. "You take me every night." "Not the way I want." She turned slowly to face him. "Then do it." He was across the room in seconds. He pulled the brush from her hand and tossed it aside. His lips were on hers, hungry and commanding. His hands gripped her waist as he lifted her effortlessly and sat her on the bathroom counter. "Tell me to stop," he growled against her mouth. "I won't," she whispered, pulling his shirt over his head. He trailed kisses down her neck, across her collarbone, until her towel slipped and hit the floor. Her back arched when he touched her, her breath catching as he lifted her legs around his waist. "I want to see you," he said. "All of you." "I'm right here," she replied, running her fingers through his hair. He leaned in and kissed, her again, deeper this time. His body pressed hard against hers, his hands exploring her curves like a map he wanted to memorize. She felt his heat, his desire, the restraint in his muscles. And yet he still moved with a kind of control that made her melt. When he finally took her, right there against the marble counter, there was no gentleness, not this time. There was passion, there was possession. And somewhere, between the bites, the moans, the whispers of her name, there was the start of something terrifying. Love. Afterward, he carried her to bed without a word, laid her down, and curled his body around hers. She touched his chest, the steady rhythm of his heart beating, under her palm. "Why me?" His eyes stayed closed, but his voice came out low, raw. "Because I don't want anyone else." And for the first time since she stepped into his world, Liana began to believe she could belong in it. Liana woke up, tangled in silk sheets, and Damon's arms. His breathing was slow and deep against her shoulder, his skin warm, his grip possessive even in sleep. She'd never shared a bed like this before, not just for sex, but for comfort, for something almost tender. But comfort came with consequences. Damon was a man of habits. His world spun fast, made of glass towers, six-figure meetings, and people who bent over backwards to earn a glance from him. Liana had no place in it, not yet, and she was starting to feel it. It began with the phone calls, late-night conversations. He always took in his office, quiet, urgent, and out of reach. Then came the visitor. Liana was in the living room, reviewing some phrases Miss Claire had given her, when the elevator dinged and a woman stepped out like she owned the sky. Blonde, tall, legs for days, and a designer dress that screamed old money. The woman paused when she saw Liana, looked her up and down like a fly on glass. "Where's Damon?" she asked flatly. Liana stood up slowly, keeping her voice steady. "He's not in right now." "And you are?" "Liana," the woman smirked. "Of course you are." She didn't wait for permission. She strutted into the penthouse like she'd done it 100 times before, tossing her purse on the marble counter. Liana stood still, unsure whether to scream or smile. "Who are you?" Liana asked finally. "Victoria," the woman said, examining her nails. "Damon's ex, or sometimes not." That last line burned like acid. When Damon returned, he wasn't surprised to see Victoria. In fact, he barely looked at Liana as he talked to her. And that silence, it was worse than anything else. Liana locked herself in the guest room that night. Not because she had to, but because she couldn't bear to sleep in his arms while her mind whispered lies about what he did before he came home. She stared at the ceiling for hours. When the door finally opened, she didn't move. "You're upset," Damon said, voice low in the dark. She didn't answer. "She's no one to me." "You know that." "Then why did you look at her like that?" He stepped closer. "Like what?" "Like you used to love her." He didn't lie. He didn't say he didn't. He just said, "That was before." "Before me?" Liana asked, her voice trembling. He sat on the edge of the bed. "You don't get it, do you? She was my world for years, and she destroyed me. I don't look at her like that anymore. I look at you. Why? Because you don't try to impress me. You challenge me. You make me feel like I have to earn you. Silence stretched between them. Then he leaned in. I can't get you out of my head, Liana. You haunt me. In every room. Every breath. Her throat tightened. Then prove it. He kissed her. Hard. Desperate. Their lips clashed, messy and full of everything they couldn't say. She pulled his shirt over his head, nails dragging down his chest. He groaned into her mouth, lifting her effortlessly, laying her beneath him like she was made of something precious and fragile. But this time, she wasn't fragile. She matched him, kiss for kiss, touch for touch. Her hands ran down his back as he moved between her legs, hot breath on her neck, teeth grazing her shoulder. When he entered her, it wasn't slow, it wasn't patient, it was claiming. And she let him. Because despite everything, despite the jealousy clawing at her gut, the truth was simple. She wanted him, even if he broke her later, even if this wasn't forever. Wasn't forever. When it was over, she lay in his arms again. But this time she didn't feel safe, she felt addicted. And Damon, he didn't sleep. He just watched her. Because for the first time in his life, he was afraid of losing something, or someone. The next. Morning came heavy with silence. Damon wasn't beside her when Liana woke, and the bed felt colder because of it. She wrapped herself in one of his shirts, soft, warm, still smelling like him, and padded out into the living room, hoping for some sign of him. He was standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, a cup of coffee in his hand, phone pressed to his ear. He was in full CEO mode, suit, tie, unreadable expression, a man she still didn't fully understand. Liana stopped, unsure if she should interrupt, but he saw her reflection in the glass and ended the call without another word. You didn't. Come back to bed, she said quietly. He turned. Couldn't sleep. You're upset. I'm thinking. She hated when he got like this. Distant. Cold. Like all the warmth from the night before had been nothing more than heat. Not emotion. She crossed her arms and walked toward him. About her? No. Then what? He looked at her then, really looked at her. You don't belong in this world, Liana, not really. Her heart dropped. What the hell is that supposed to mean, she asked, her voice sharper than she intended. I mean, I brought you out of the dirt, out of the gutter, and now... He hesitated. Now people are talking, she stared. So, let them talk. You don't understand. My reputation. She laughed bitterly. Your reputation. That's what this is about? You're embarrassed of me. No, he said, quickly stepping forward. That's not what but it is. You like fucking me in the dark, but in the light I'm just the girl you picked up off the street. His jaw clenched. Watch your tone. Or what? She snapped. You'll throw me out, replace me with someone cleaner, someone richer, his. Silence said more than words ever could. She took a shaky breath, eyes burning. I let you take everything from me. My innocence, my heart. And now you're telling me I don't belong? I didn't say that, he muttered, but even he didn't believe himself. She walked past him, heart breaking, fury swelling. You're not afraid of what people say. You're afraid you're falling for me. And that terrifies you, doesn't it? He said nothing. She grabbed her purse, one of the many expensive gifts he'd thrown her way, and turned toward the door. Where are you going? He asked, voice low. To remember who I was before you made me think I needed you. The streets felt different now. They didn't welcome her. They whispered. The people she once called neighbors looked at her like a stranger. Maybe she didn't belong here anymore. But Damon had just made it clear. She didn't belong up there either. She was in between. Not slum, not society, just lost. She wandered for hours until the city lights flickered on, and her legs finally gave out beneath her. She sank onto a bench, eyes shut, the wind brushing against her skin, and then her phone buzzed. New message. Damon. Come home. She stared at it. Another message followed. I'm sorry. And then another. Please. She didn't reply, but deep inside, she already knew she was going to go back, not because he was rich, or because the penthouse had heated floors and silk sheets, but because somehow, despite everything, she still loved the man who had broken her. By the time Liana returned to the penthouse, it was past midnight. She hadn't replied to any of Damon's messages, but still, her feet had led her back, not because she forgave him, not yet, but because she needed answers. And maybe, deep down, she wanted to see if he even noticed she was gone. The elevator opened to silence. No soft music, no clinking glasses, just quiet. Stillness. Then, his voice. "You came back." She turned her head. Damon was standing barefoot. By the bar, sleeves rolled up, a bottle of whiskey half empty beside him. His tie was gone, his hair messy, his eyes red-rimmed, like he hadn't slept either. "I thought you left for good," he said quietly. "I almost did," she replied. Keeping her distance, he moved closer, hesitant. I didn't mean what I said about you not belonging. I was angry, scared." "Scared of what?" she asked bitterly. "Of loving a girl who used to sell cigarettes by the street?" "Yes," he said, no hesitation. His honesty slapped her harder than any insult could have. She blinked, her throat closing up. He exhaled deeply. "I've spent years building an empire, controlling everything, no feelings, no chaos. And then you showed up, barefoot, hungry, silent, and you wrecked everything I thought I needed." Her chest ached. "So your solution was to shame me?" "I don't know how to love, Liana," he admitted. "I only know how to possess." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Then why not just buy another girl?" "Because none of them made me feel like this." He reached out, fingers brushing hers. "I'm not asking you to forgive me now, but don't walk away. Don't punish me by disappearing. If you do, I'll go insane." Her eyes met his, wet with unshed tears. "You broke something, Damon." "I know," he said softly, brushing her cheek with the back of his hand. "Let me fix it." She didn't move when he leaned in. She didn't pull away when his lips pressed against hers. And when he deepened the kiss, slow, apologetic, aching, she kissed him back. Because love doesn't vanish just because it hurts. He carried her to the bedroom without a word. This time he didn't undress her like a man desperate for pleasure. He moved like someone trying to worship her. His mouth was slow, tender, his hands trembling slightly as they held her. When he finally entered her, there was no rush, just connection. Skin to skin, heart to heart. She clung to him, her tears slipping silently into his neck. And he held her tighter, as if he could anchor her to him forever. They didn't speak afterward. They didn't need to. But as she drifted into sleep beside him, Damon whispered into the darkness, "I'll spend every day proving I'm worthy of you." And for the first time in weeks, she believed him. Liana wasn't prepared for what came next. Just as Damon had begun to soften, to love her the way she always dreamed a man could, the past came knocking. And it didn't knock gently. It stormed in wearing red heels and lipstick sharp enough to cut. Victoria, Damon's ex. The one who'd once worn his last name in secret, the one who left him in pieces. And now, suddenly, she was back. Liana didn't hear her heels until they were echoing across the penthouse floor like gunshots. She was in the kitchen making tea when the door opened without warning. Damon was in the shower. The guards must have let Victoria up without asking, because of course they would. She still looked like someone important. "Oh," Victoria said coolly, stepping inside and eyeing Liana from head to toe. "You're still here." Liana froze, her hand tightening around the kettle. "I thought you'd be gone by now." "Damon always got bored fast." Liana didn't reply. She refused to play into the game, but Victoria was relentless. "Let me guess," she said, circling the island, her voice dripping venom. "You gave him your virginity, and now you think that means something?" She was too calm, too practiced, and it cut. "He loves me," Liana said quietly. Victoria laughed. "He loved me too, sweetheart. You think you're different, but you're just new, shiny, until you're not. Before." Liana could answer. Damon stepped into the room. His hair was wet, a towel hanging low on his hips. His eyes landed on Victoria and then immediately shifted to Liana. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded. Victoria smiled. "Relax. Just came to say hi." Damon didn't return the smile. "Get out," she raised a brow. "That's not very polite." "You gave up the right to polite when you walked out 2 years ago," he said coldly. "This isn't your home anymore." Victoria's smile faltered. "And her? She's what, your new charity case?" Damon didn't flinch. He walked to Liana, placed a hand on her waist and pulled her close in front of his ex. "She's the woman I'm marrying." Victoria's face cracked like glass. "You're joking." "No, I'm not." His voice was steel. Liana stared at him, shocked. He hadn't proposed again, he hadn't said it in those exact words since that night. And yet here he was, making a promise in front of the very woman who used to own his heart. "You never even told me you loved me," Victoria hissed. "And you're going to marry her?" "Because I didn't love you," Damon said with finality. "I thought I did, but now I know what love actually feels like. It's terrifying, and it's real, and it's standing beside me." Victoria blinked rapidly. "You'll regret this," she snapped, storming out, her heels louder now, rage echoing down the hall. The door slammed. Liana stood frozen. Damon turned to her slowly. "I'm sorry, she shouldn't have come. I'll make sure she's never allowed near you again," but Liana didn't say anything. "Not yet." "Did you mean it?" she asked after a long pause. "Mean what?" "What you said, that you're marrying me." He walked over, took her hand and dropped to one knee. "I've done everything wrong, Liana. I hurt you. I let my past make me cruel. But if you'll still have me, I want to spend every day proving I can be better." Her eyes welled up. "No fancy ring?" He smirked. "I can buy you 100, but right now I just want to hear you say yes." She looked down at him. "At the man who broke her and pieced her back together. Yes," she whispered. He stood, kissed her like he meant it, and held her so tight it felt like he was afraid to let go. But neither of them saw it. The way Victoria watched from the hallway, lips pressed together, phone in hand, and in her eyes burned something deadly. Revenge. Revenge. The engagement should have been the start of something beautiful, and for a little while it was. Liana and Damon shared mornings wrapped in silk sheets and lazy kisses, laughter over burnt pancakes she insisted on making herself, and nights where he whispered promises against her skin. But peace never lasts when jealousy's watching. Victoria wasn't just hurt, she was humiliated. She had once owned Damon Cross, the cold, untouchable CEO, and now a girl from the slums had taken him from her, publicly, boldly, so she didn't cry. She didn't beg. She planned. It started with whispers, rumors that trickled into boardrooms and media outlets, that Damon had fallen for a gold digger, that Liana was pregnant before the engagement, that she used her innocence to trap him into marriage. The press picked it up like wildfire. Damon's phone rang endlessly with PR emergencies. And Liana, she read the headlines in silence. From sidewalks to silk sheets, CEO's virgin lover or clever opportunist. X reveals he's making the worst mistake of his life. Damon threw his phone across the room one night. It shattered. "I'll shut them all down," he growled, pacing the floor. "Every paper, every blogger, every goddamn whisper." Liana sat still on the bed. "Is it true?" she asked softly. He stopped, turned. "What?" "That they believe. I tricked you," his face fell. "I don't care what they believe, but do you?" He was quiet for too long, and that silence shattered her more than the phone ever could. Liana stood up, her voice shaking. "You said you'd protect me. You said none of it mattered." "It doesn't," he began. "Then why haven't you made the announcement official?" She asked, pain leaking into her voice. "Where's the engagement photos, the press release? Your social media's still empty." "Because I wanted to keep you safe." "No," she said. "You wanted to keep me secret." He opened his mouth, but she was already walking away. The next morning she was gone. She didn't leave a note. She didn't take any of the expensive jewelry or clothes he gave her, just packed her old canvas bag and slipped out into the grey light of dawn. Damon tore apart the penthouse when he woke up. Her closet, her drawers, empty. The smell of her shampoo still lingered in the bathroom, mocking him. He tried to call. No answer. He called Miss Claire, the tutor. She hadn't heard from her. He even called Nympha, the old woman Liana once helped, only to find out she had left town. Liana had vanished. Across the city, in a tiny apartment she rented with the last of her savings, Liana sat by the window, staring into the rain. Her hands were folded over her belly. Yes, her belly. She hadn't told Damon. She had only found out 2 days ago, before the rumors, before the headlines. She had planned to surprise him, to tell him he wasn't just getting a wife, he was getting a family. But now, she didn't even know if he wanted her, let alone a child. Her heart wanted to believe he did, but her heart was tired of hoping. She touched her stomach, eyes wet. "It's okay, baby. I'll raise you myself." But the world wasn't finished with her yet. That night, as she closed the curtains, a knock echoed at her door. She froze. No one knew she lived here. She opened it slowly, and there stood Victoria, in heels, in black, with a smile that could slice bone. "Well, look at you," Victoria said sweetly, eyes gleaming. "Just like your mother, huh?" Liana's heart stopped. "What did you just say?" Victoria's smile grew colder. "You really thought this was just about Damon? Oh, sweetheart, you have no idea who you are, do you?" Liana backed up, hand on her belly. "What are you talking about?" Victoria stepped inside. "You should have stayed in the slums, Liana, because now you're about to find out why your sister really died, and who your nephew's father actually is." The door slammed behind her, and suddenly everything began to unravel. Liana stood frozen, her breath caught somewhere between her chest and her throat. Victoria's words echoed through the small apartment like gunfire. "You have no idea who you are, do you?" "What do you mean?" Liana demanded, voice tight with panic. "What do you know about my sister?" Victoria leaned against the wall, arms folded, looking far too comfortable for someone who had just dropped a bomb. "I didn't plan to tell you, but since you're carrying Damon's child now, maybe it's time you knew." "How do you know I'm pregnant?" Liana snapped. Victoria smirked. "Damon's not the only one who can pay people to talk. Say what you came to say and leave." Victoria's eyes sharpened. "Your sister, the one who died after giving birth to that little boy you now call your son, she wasn't just some poor girl who got unlucky. She worked for Damon's father." Liana's stomach dropped. "What?" "She was his assistant, his mistress. And guess what? That precious little boy you're raising, he's not your nephew, he's your brother." Liana's legs gave out. She fell back onto the edge of the couch, heart racing, skin cold. "You're lying." "I wish I was." Victoria shrugged. "But Damon's father paid your sister to stay quiet. When she got pregnant, he offered her money to disappear, but she didn't take it. She kept the baby. That's why she died, Liana, not from stress, but because she was being chased." "Chased by who?" Liana breathed. "His men." Damon never knew. He thought his father was a monster, sure, but this was hidden from him. "No," Liana whispered. "No, you're just trying to ruin me." "I already did," Victoria said calmly. "But this is bigger than you, than Damon. Your child is about to be born into a family, built on lies, money, and blood, and you're standing in the middle of it." With that, she turned and walked to the door. "I suggest you tell Damon, before I do." And then she was gone. Damon found her 2 days later. She was at the clinic checking on her baby. He burst through the door the second she stepped outside, grabbing her arm gently. "Why did you leave me?" Liana's eyes welled with tears. She wanted to yell, to cry, but she just asked, "Did you know?" "Know what?" "About my sister, your father." Damon's face turned pale. Liana searched his eyes. "Tell me the truth. Is it true? Is Leon your brother?" Damon backed, away like she'd struck him. "I didn't know," he said. "My father. He was cruel, secretive, but I never thought—" He couldn't finish. She sobbed once and turned, but he caught her. "I don't care whose child Leon is. I don't care how he came into the world. He's yours. That makes him mine. And this child you're carrying, that makes you mine too." Liana shook her head. "You don't understand. It's not about blood. It's about what I've lost, what I've given up. You don't know what it's like to live every day fighting just to breathe." "I do now," he said, "because I've been without you." He dropped to his knees, right there in front of the clinic. I don't care about the past. I only care about you, about our future. Please, let me fix this. Let me give Leon and our baby the life they deserve." Leanna stared down at him, tears streaming down her face. People passed, by some staring, but Damon didn't care. "I love you," he said, "and I will fight the world if I have to, but I'm not losing you again." She bent down, cupped his face and kissed him, and that kiss was everything. It was pain, it was forgiveness, it was home. 1 month later, in a quiet hospital room with sunlight pouring in, Leanna gave birth to a baby girl. Damon held her like she was made of stars, eyes wet, smile broken wide with joy. "I'm naming her Hope," Leanna whispered, resting in the hospital bed. Damon kissed her forehead. Hope Devon, a new legacy, one without secrets. Outside the room, Victoria stood in the hallway watching through the glass, and for the first time, she turned and walked away without a word. Because in the end, Leanna hadn't just stolen Damon's heart. She'd taken back her story and rewritten it in her own name.